Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday. Welcome to Coffee Chats with Coach Candy. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is so awesome having y'all here. Good morning. How was the weekend? We are going to get into some more discussion around how to destroy the noise. Good morning, Deborah. Good morning, Robin. Welcome. How was your weekend, ladies? We're just getting things kicked off. It is Monday morning, new week. How was the weekend? Good morning, Yvette. Welcome, everyone. We're going to continue to talk about some opinions of others. Good morning. How was the weekend? You were traveling this weekend, weren't you, Yvette? How was the weekend, everybody? As everybody is jumping on, let's just kind of jump in and get things ramped up. So we have been talking about wonderful weekend. Awesome. I love hearing that. Same here. It was kind of low key. Good morning, Martha. Very chill weekend. I had a really busy week last week. I had all day strategy session with a client. I had a huge client meeting. I had 2 training facilitations. In addition to that, I kicked off things, yes, monthly. And then I had a half-day mastermind with one of my groups Friday, in addition to 5 Facebook Lives. So it was a big morning. Good morning, Deborah. So it was a full week for sure. So I did a lot of just kind of chilling out this weekend, which was nice. Gotta love that, right? Good morning. Weekend was okay. Working on making things better. Awesome to hear. We're going to talk about ways to destroy the noise if there's some noise getting in your way. Good morning. It was good. Yours, excellent. Mine was great. Oh, you went to a concert. Fantastic. Good morning, Indianapolis. Yeah, I thought I saw you in Indiana. That's awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. Like I said, I want to get back into some things on how to destroy the noise. I know we were talking last week about the opinions of others you choose to internalize. And I had shared a couple stories and strategies on ways to, yes, I was busy. Last week, I'm not usually that busy, just so y'all know. I'm not usually that crazy in terms of trainings and workshops and masterminds. It just sort of all happened at the same time. Plus, I had a client ask for a last minute request if I was available to run an all-day strategy session, which I was, fortunately. So it was great, and I was completely brain dead by Friday afternoon. For sure. So some things I was going to do this weekend didn't happen simply because I needed to repair the brain matter because I was tapped out for sure. But anyway, last week we talked about some more of the noise. And so just a refresher for those that are jumping on for the first time, the noise is all about the negative self-talk filters, frames you're creating. So that's the N. The O is the opinions of others you choose. And I'm going to say it again, you choose to internalize. Nothing said about you is about you until you emotionally engage and connect to it. The I is the inefficiencies you're creating every day. And the S is the shoulding you're doing all over yourself. So the shoulding, yes, you heard that the way you thought you heard that. And then the E is the excuses that you create and perpetuate. But we are going to spend some time, or I should say, and we are going to spend some time on the O still. Last week we talked a lot about those negative comments, those things that could be hurtful, things that we feel offended by, the things that we choose to participate with. And I had shared a couple stories on ways to deflect that kind of intense energy. We talked about it from a bullying perspective. I shared a story about how I was truly bullied at work when I was in my corporate sector and how I kind of addressed that, as well as when I was getting ready to transition and someone didn't like my coat. So, just those kind of examples. I think sometimes, though, it's easier for us to deflect and say, I don't want to participate with the negative energy. So sometimes it gets really clear to be like, yeah, that's not for me. I'm over it, right? And we can walk away from the negative energy sometimes better than what I'll call the well-intentioned positive, and I'm going to use that loosely, positive energy. We don't realize sometimes that what gets in our way is the inadvertent comments. It's the people that we do know, like, trust, and respect. It is the people that are in our inner circle. It is the people who are the well-intentioned individuals who They love us. They don't want to see us get hurt. They want to protect us. They want us to be smart about how we're going. They just care about our future. And oftentimes they preface it with those phrases. Well, I love you so much. I just don't think that's a great idea. And what they do is they squash your dreams. They squash the things that are really overflowing, the passion, the things that get you charged. And oftentimes they don't know they're doing it, because what's happening is those comments, again, aren't truly about you. Those comments are them coming from their own insecurity, fear, anxiety, their own experiences, their own stories, their own limiting beliefs. And for those of you that jumped on the Yes Monthly last week, we did a lot of conversation about limiting beliefs. In fact, I'm going to be going live tomorrow night, so that we can dig in even further, and I can answer any of your questions, and any of your thoughts. We can dig in a little bit more. So again, you can still jump in and join us for that, but I will be going live tomorrow night on one of my other pages that is for my students of my programs. And but what we don't realize is oftentimes those people that love us so much are the people that are holding us back so much. And what happens is we have this, ooh, yes, I've had that kind of positive energy directed at me. Yeah, we all do, right? And we get blinded by it. Because as soon as someone says, but I love you, and you're like, oh, but they love me. They're looking out for me. They must know better than I do. And what happens is that fire, that passion, that very thing that like lights a fire inside of you, that spark, all of a sudden starts to fade and dissipate and go away, because we've let someone else's story, we've again let someone else's circus and their monkeys dictate whether or not that's our reality or not. And the same principles apply for the well-intentioned people as they do for the negative people who are just spinning out of control, who just have all kinds of crappy energy around them. We need to ask ourselves, is that real? Is that really my truth? Do I really believe that? And is it possible that there could be another story? Is there possible that there could be another way for me to look at this? And so I want you to think about that. I want you to think about where you have people. And oftentimes it's the people that are in our innermost circle. We need people that challenge us. Yes, your inner circle should not be yes people. Your inner circle should also not be people that are shutting you down inadvertently that you're not even aware of. And so to have somebody challenge you to say, okay, tell me, have you thought this through? What does this look like? How are you gonna go about this? What action are you gonna take? They're gonna hold you accountable. They're not gonna squash the dream itself. It's the people that say, I don't think that's possible. You know what, Candy, and I got this a lot growing up, right? I got, Candy, sometimes I think you're too big of a dreamer. Anybody ever hear that? You're too passionate. You're too big of a dreamer. And we talked about some of that two space again last week, about how that two space is oftentimes your gift. It's the space that really, is your opportunity. And when you hear people say things like, oh, I used to get that all the time, you're too big of a dreamer. You look at the world through rose-colored glasses. I got that a lot. I got that I was Pollyanna sunshine, that I always wanted to create the positive outlook. And I mean, for those of you that know, and I mean, I even posted a blog yesterday about how Father's Day weekend's a really weird weekend for me. Really weird weekend for me. 9 years ago, actually, on the 19th, but it was Father's Day weekend in 2010. It was the Friday of Father's Day weekend. My father passed away, and he passed away from liver cancer and pancreatic cancer, which in some ways, and I know this sounds kind of, well, it sounds as however it sounds, was kind of the universe's way of bringing karma full circle, in my opinion. And I know some people would be shocked for me to say that. My dad, and many of you know, was not a nice person. He was not kind. And he was very destructive in terms of his words, and did a lot of mental and emotional abuse, as well as oftentimes, especially with me, very physical abuse. And I think about that, and there's still always a way to look at the world differently. And don't get me wrong, I had my dark spots. I had many times where I was fighting my way out of a paper bag for the most part, and I was just fighting against everything. And I always had this kind of like dichotomy of really being angry at the world and really wanting to save the world. And but oftentimes, even I wrote poetry back in those days, and I still write poetry, but I wrote a lot of poetry, which is what I consider to be cathartic poetry, where I oftentimes write things for my own healing that I don't know what it really means until I'm ready to receive it. And I remember writing a piece particularly about my dad my junior year in high school. And I remember my English teacher, Mr. Balas, who junior or senior year. I can't remember which year he was. Either way, I felt up. Oops. Okay, looks like I am losing. Good morning, Mateo. It looks like I am losing my live here. Oh, come on. Come on, come on. Looks like I am losing my connection. Okay, we got a storm coming through, so I don't know if I'm going to get, yeah, senior year. So hopefully you guys can still see me or hear me a little bit. I don't know. Let's see, namaste. Oh, good. So you guys seem to be on. It looks like my computer is spinning a little bit. So I don't know how good the reception's coming in. I got another storm coming through, and I think I'm having some massive issues with my technology. So you need to check that out. Either way, I had written a poem about my dad, actually. Didn't know it at the time. And I remember Mr. Bloss having me stand in front of the room and just kind of, I'm pixelating. Okay, well, bear with me because I'll still talk to you guys. I don't know what's going on my end, but I'm having massive computer issues. So, okay, perfect. Love you guys for hanging in here, even when I'm probably all scrambled. But it was interesting. So I was going to submit this poem. It was called The Sea. The S-E-A, the sea. And I was going to submit this poem for a competition. And yes, Mateo, I would love that. Please, please, please. Thank you. I want to take you up on that. Yes, yes, yes. Let's talk offline. And so, yeah, it's amazing how you upgrade and all of a sudden things, I've upgraded months ago, or a while ago, but I swear my signal has been worse ever since I upgraded than when I didn't. So anyway, interesting. But Mateo, I absolutely would take you up on that. So anyway, back to the story. I had this poem that I had written, and it was one of those that I was going to submit. I knew it was a good poem. And I remember saying something to Mr. Bloss about it, and he actually kind of made me read it in front of the class, which was mortifying. I absolutely did not share my poetry. I've only very rarely shared my poetry, truthfully. And I didn't know what it meant. And I remember him getting up there telling me exactly what the poem was about. I'm like, that's not what it's about. He's like, then what's the poem about? And I said, I don't know. Good morning, Melissa. I'm like, I don't know what the poem is about. And so he tore it to pieces. And I remember the difference between, I had an English teacher, Mrs. Dela Cruz, who she and I are still in touch today. And she was one of the most amazing, Peyton. Well, I'm having all kinds of issues this morning. Good Lord. She was one of the most encouraging people. So she was like the polar opposite of Mr. Bloss. And what was interesting was, I remember she was the first person that ever read any of my poems in 7th grade. And I still to this day have the page because again, we get to choose what we internalize. Good morning, Jeff. We get to choose, and apologies if I'm pixelating. I'm having some computer issues and we got a storm coming through. So I know I'm broken up and some of you are like, I'm kind of in and out, but hopefully, thank you all for staying and joining. And so what was interesting is Mr. Bloss took that poem and he like marked through it with all red, and he makes me stand up in front of the class and mortified me and was trying to tell me what the poem was all about. He was giving me all this feedback. So he was more of that negative example. Mrs. Dela Cruz, on the other hand, she ended up writing all the time. She would always write in the margins in pencil when you gave her your poems, when you gave her your work. She treated it as if it was this precious gift. And I still have the front page that she wrote like all her thoughts and comments and example of what she, my dog's making me crazy, and example, like all the things that I could do with my writing and the ways to expand my opportunity. And I remember her encouraging me and challenging me. And the reason I say that, and the reason I'm giving you that example is because we have to be mindful of how we intake other people's thoughts, right? There's people around us that say they're doing it in our best interest, but they're not lifting us up in the process. They're just inadvertently shutting us down. Peyton, enough. So they are, really in a space where they are projecting their own fears, they're projecting their own insecurities, and they're not in a space to really see you for who you are and lift you up. And so to tie that back, I was talking to, and somehow I got distracted with my internet, my dog, and whatever. It is Monday morning, apparently. We had a huge storm last night, and I'm feeling discombobulated. Anyway, thank you all for staying with me. So back to the noise. I'm having lots of it this morning. I had written a blog. Many of you might have seen it. I posted it because this weekend gets really weird for me. because it is the anniversary. It's the 9-year anniversary of my dad passing, and which I always thought was the universe's kind of weird humor or irony, that my grandmother actually, what was so ironic about it is my grandmother actually passed on Mother's Day, which I was like, oh, that's so fitting, that's so touching. And then I always thought it was kind of like the universe's joke on me to say your father's passing on Father's Day. But what was interesting about that is he was a really difficult person to be around, and that opinions of others I really had to start to master, because he was really manipulative when it came to the subtle underlying ways that he would tear you down. And so I use that as the example because I want you to realize that you had, yes, full moon too. Everything's going on right now. I love you, Martha. That's so funny. And so I want you to think about that. Sometimes people aren't direct about the way they're giving you the opinions and the way they're sort of subconsciously feeding what you believe about yourself. And, you know, I go back to a lot of the different comments and the things that my dad would say, and it took me a long time to be able to, and there's still things that probably I get caught up with, that took me a long time to be able to shift out of that space, right? And so when you get into a space, when I look at it, even the poems that I wrote, so this is finally coming full circle because I'm like, what was I talking about? And so this is one of those that when even, except for one poem, every poem that I was in a really bad place then, but even every poem I wrote, and a lot of them were about my experiences with my dad. A lot of them were about the beat down I would get either verbally, mentally, or sometimes even physically. And it was really a space where I could always find kind of the silver lining, right? I could always find the rainbow through the storm. I could always find something that allowed it to shed a different light or have a different perspective. And like I said, I had a lot of people that would tell me, oh, you're Pollyanna sunshine. You're just too positive. And you're too this, you're too that, you're too big of a dreamer. You look through the world through rose-colored glasses. And for a while, I started to question that. You love too big. I mean, these were all things I got told over and over again. And these were people that were trying to protect me from the real world. They didn't want me to, like, get knocked down again and again and again. And it was interesting to me because I could never understand, even in my darkest hours, my darkest days. And I had some pretty big rock bottoms through my childhood in particular, but even as I grew into an adult and in my 20s, I had some significant rock bottoms. And if you ever want to see some of those stories, you can go out. There's an article that I wrote, or that interview that was done on me on CNN.com that talks a little bit about some of my rock bottom moments. But needless to say, there was always a different outlook. And I think about who you're letting feed your mindset. And, you know, this is Monday mindset. We're kicking off a new week, and I've had all kinds of distractions already this morning. And it gets to a point of how are you answering the question about what do you need, who you are, and what's your reality, right? Because it's not about what everybody else is feeding you. Those well-intentioned people who are oftentimes in a space where they really truly think they're coming from a place to protect you. They are coming from a place where they love you. And you still get to decide whether or not that's information that you want to digest. It's information that you want to internalize. It's information that you want to create as part of your story. Or if you simply want to say, thank you so much, I appreciate you, I love you too. And you know what, that's not really for me. You can at any time say something's not for you. And so for those of you that are still on, like I said, I think I'm being a little pixelated right now and everything's a little jumbled up. Any thoughts or questions about that? Because I think I'm having some massive technology issues. I'm sort of freezing on my end over here. So not going to stay on super long this morning. I can bring this conversation back, but want to know what shows up for you in that space. Do you have people in your life that are either consciously giving you some of that feedback or that insight, or even subconsciously, subliminally feeding you with some of that stuff that's because they love you, because they protect you? And Peyton is on a rampage this morning. My goodness, he is determined to be heard. I don't know if you can hear him squeaking in the background, killing me. Mateo, you should. Yes, and we're going to get into the shoulding so much. Some of the most manipulative based language passive abusers use it. Yeah, and there's a lot of passive abusers and passive aggressive people in our life that we're not even aware are being passive aggressive. And the shoulding that people do all over you. Yeah, we get a lot of that. You should do this, you should do that, you should be careful. I mean, when I stepped out and took money out of my retirement account so that I could start my own business, you cannot even imagine the feedback I got from some people. And so this is also the space where maybe you don't tell everybody what your big dreams are. You tell the people that are really going to lift you up and challenge you in an accountability way, but you don't tell everybody until you actually make it happen, right? Because it really gets easy. We've already got some of our own anxiety, our own questions, our own things that we're like, holy cow, what if that doesn't, work out? What if this, we play enough of our own what if. We don't need anybody feeding that, right? Yes. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm clear on your end now. Excellent. I'm not on my end. So, and I wasn't the other day on my Facebook either. They kept phrasing up. So Mateo, yes, I definitely need you to help me optimize. Something is going on. I don't know if I need a complete root boot or what I need to do, but driving me crazy, and I can't keep training like this. Deborah, yeah, I did. I don't any longer. Yeah, it's amazing how we do that, right? Yes, I've had the would, don't you? Yeah, we get a lot of that stuff where people will ask us, Carmen, I experienced this yesterday. So what you're talking about this morning is exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you. You are so welcome. When people don't understand your passion or dream, they're afraid of it. And that's when the well-meaning advice comes. Yeah, because here's the thing. When you start to tell people that you're going to step out, when you start to tell people you got the bigger dream, when you start to tell people that you're like going to light it up, what happens is we are always for each other a mirror of either our insecurities, our fears, or our own biggest dreams. And when you start shining your light, other people then have a mirror that is held up for them. And many times they're afraid to look in because they're not ready to take that plunge, because they're afraid, or because it's the recognition that they're not living their best life. It's amazing to me how many people have thoughts for me because they're spiraling in the fact that they just realize they're not as vibrant, they're not as alive, they're not present, they're not as engaged in their life, and they know that something's missing. And rather than focus on how to address their own issues and find solutions, it's easier to project out. And I remember I had a friend of mine, this was years ago, and she came out to visit me. I was living in Oshkosh, Wisconsin at the time. And she started just saying, she goes, Candy, I think I was going to be about 35 at the time. She's like, you're going to be 35. You're not getting any younger. And I was like, well, thanks for the reality check. What's that got to do with anything? She goes, don't you think you want to get married? And yeah, the don't you, right? The don't you think you want to marry? Don't you think you want to have kids? Don't you think you should think about settling down? And I remember after about the 12th, don't you, or should you do this, or don't you want to consider, or, aren't you this, or whatever it was, I finally said to her, I said, if you took half the energy that you spent worrying about my life, which by the way is fabulous, I love my life, I really did, even then. And I said, if you spent half the energy focused on why you're miserable in your own marriage and why you're not happy in your life versus worrying about my life, you might realize you're not so unhappy. You might find out what the cause of that is. And I kind of tossed that back, and we didn't talk for 5 years. And I mean that seriously. She just stopped talking to me. And I was okay with that, because I'm like, none of this has anything to do with me. You're trying to poke holes in my life, which I love, because you're miserable and you're not happy. And the more I'm living my life on my terms, the more you realize you're not. And so oftentimes it's a mirror that people are, why don't you do? Yes, exactly. And watch the sorries there, Yvette. We're not sorry. Just shift the cancel clear, right? This is what you meant to say instead. Ooh, I definitely had that. The get married and kids talk. Yeah, I still get that. I'll be 46 and I still get people. And you know what? It's amazing to me. There was a Sex and the City episode where Miranda was getting that a lot. Don't you think you should be married? Oh, and then I get a lot of, oh, you're single. Oh, you're not married. Oh, you don't have kids. And I'm always amazed. I find that humorous. Once upon a time, it really annoyed the crap out of me. Just to be honest, it really got under my skin. I was allowing it to get under my skin. I always find it funny when people think something's wrong with me because I'm not in a relationship, or I don't have kids, which I will argue with that. I have a four-legged fur baby who is my baby on every level. And I get that that's different than having, children, and it's not. And it's nobody's business. And here's the thing, it's nobody's business how I choose to live my life. I don't have to get anyone's approval. I don't need anyone's opinion. I don't need any kind of, oh, Candy, whatever like that projected pitying that comes at you. And it's not about me. It's about people looking at their own life thinking, wow, how can she be so happy when this is the rule, right? Because we tell people, and so think about that. That's that inadvertent passive aggressive way that we say, oh, this is what the metric of success looks like. God forbid you be happy and you don't have the, husband or the spouse and the kids and the white picket fence and the 2.5 car garage and the whatever the hell the things are. We have so many shouldings and so many things that we put out there on how we're supposed to live our life, that when you decide to detour off that, when you decide to live your life on your terms because it's how you choose to live your life, people really freak out and don't understand, because oftentimes they're not giving themselves the same permission, and so they're using it as a way to project that out. And so all you do is kindly offer, hey, you know what, maybe you should spend half that time worrying about what's not well in your life, because I know this isn't going to make you super thrilled, but my life is good and I love my life, and I don't need you to worry about me. I can take care of myself. And so it's that space of being able to stand up and recognize some of that passive aggressive behavior and be able to stand in your own authenticity and stand in your own voice. I'm going to tell you, professionally, it is the worst. Passive abusers don't know they are being that way. Absolutely. We have so much passive aggressive energy in our culture. It's ridiculous. Shoulding is the lowest form of helping. Absolutely. Should is the future of business and life. Should is the prevention or planning to receive. We are paid to know, not should, think, guess. And the thing is we don't always know. And so I love what you're saying, Mateo, and I don't think we always know. And I think if you're hired in the position that is the best position for you, it's a position where you don't know how to do everything. You have the opportunity to grow into that position. And the thing is the shoulding locks you into a status quo. When you're in a space where you think, oh, we should do this. This is the way we've always done it. You should be doing it this way. That is holding on to a status quo instead of allowing creativity to enter into the workplace. And saying that you don't know something is perfectly acceptable. Not necessarily in a workplace. They don't accept it, but saying I don't know is one of the most powerful ownership statements you can make. I don't know how to do this. I'm trying to figure it out, or I'm working to figure it out. I would love some thoughts about how you might approach this, and then I can take that information and disseminate through it to make my own decisions. Because here's the thing, again, anything said passive aggressively from a positive, well-intentioned person or negative is simply a data point. You have the opportunity to decide whether or not you're going to choose to internalize it, or whether or not you're going to participate, and whether or not it has any value for the story that you're creating. At any time you get to decide. And at the end of the day, that is the message that I really want you to walk away from here, is the fact that you get to decide. You get to truly effectively say, is this a piece of advice that I want for me? Or, you know what, thank you so much, I appreciate it, and not for me, not today. And so you at all times get to decide in that space. Yeah, Yvette, I'm like you. I have my friends' kids. Yeah, and I'm also an aunt, and I have a niece and a nephew, and I'm Aunt Candy to a lot of kids. And I had a friend that once put it to me when she said, there's times that I think you're supposed to be a mother in a larger sense of the world. You're helping other people who have needed that space to feel protected and loved and trusted and healed. And, it's just like family has a lot of different definitions. Mother has a lot of different definitions. You don't need to use someone else's standards as your metric for success. You can at any point, here's the message, and the way that I want to bring this full circle today, even with all my tangents and the noise that was going on here, I want you to realize that you at all times get to decide what's in the best interest for you. You get to decide what success looks like for you. You get to decide what information you take in and what information you let pass you by. And nobody gets to take that personal power away from you unless you choose to offer it to them. And so if people don't understand you, that's okay. You can either try to make them understand, which is oftentimes a lot of wasted energy, or you can simply stand in who you are and let your gifts, let your awesomeness, let your success on your terms shine, and let them see what that's really made of. And watch when people say to you, well, you're too this, you're too that. Oh, you're Candy, you're so naive. Okay. I still would rather be an idealist than someone who's living in a space where I want to focus on everything that's wrong with the world. I'd rather be an idealist and look for something that's a strand of hope, something that's a ray of light, something that says there's a better possibility. I truly believe that in everything we do, there's always a better way. There's always a better perspective. And if that makes me too Pollyanna sunshine, if that makes me too naive, if that makes me looking through the world through rose-colored glasses, I'll take it all day long. I would rather look through the world look at the world through rose. I'm also a realist. I see the things that are going on, and I choose to still look for the good. I want to find the silver lining. I want to find the rainbow in the storm. I want to find the opportunity. And leaders know that no matter what's going on, no matter the challenge, trial, tribulation, no matter what it is, there is an opportunity to be found in every situation. And if you can really step into a place to believe that, then you can really decipher, I love being auntie too, then you can really decipher whether or not someone's input is something that you want to internalize or not. You get to decide at all turns, at all costs, what feeds your personal power and what doesn't feed that power, and you get to decide yes or no. Again, yes and no are powerful questions. Know how and when to use the both. Yvette, as I get older, I am better at moving past the well-intentioned advice, and I'm also getting better at just being happy for people when they're making a bold move. I try to encourage them. Yeah, you know, if somebody sees something, we've all been given visions. We've all been given desires. We've all been given things that are unique to us, and not everybody's going to see it. They're not going to see it. Oftentimes, I mean, everybody will call you foolish until you can get it done. The video I posted this weekend, that's the one that Serena Williams and others put together about, you know, oh, if a woman cries, she's too passionate, if she's this, she's that. And they always said, you can't. Well, until you can, they call you crazy, right? Well, and I've said this a million times, and I said it when I posted the video. Look, my eulogy, this is all I wanted to say in my eulogy, is Candy Barone. She was batshit crazy, and she changed the world. Because it takes being batshit crazy. It takes having that crazy. It takes people not understanding to have a vision to see things that aren't happening now. You can't create change in what's status quo. You can't create change in what everybody else sees. So if you get that vision, if you get that space, step into it. Don't worry if no one else sees it for you. You have to see it first. And when you get there, they stop calling you crazy once you make it happen, right? So let them call you crazy. Let them call you all kinds of things. Marusha, good morning. Welcome, my friend. Oh, it's so great to have you on here. Deborah, I don't have kids. I never wanted to actually have them. From a very young age, like 5 years old, I had stepkids. And since being divorced, I get to choose which of those to keep in my life. I am past having kids and still get asked about the decision. Yeah, you know, we get a lot of questions about that. People just always seem to have their own thoughts, their inputs, their own, you know, perception on how we should live our lives. And at the end of the day, you get to decide. At the end of the day, it is only up to you. Yes, be crazy. Be batshit crazy. You know what? The only way this world gets changed is if you're a little crazy. The only way that things happen is if you're crazy enough to believe in your vision. The only way that things happen is if you're crazy enough to say no to all the people that are well-intentioned telling you how to live your life and telling you, but I love you, I want you to be safe, I want to protect you. Yes, and be a little crazy and stop listening to them. Stop listening to what everybody told you should be doing and how you should live your life. Live your life on your terms. And if it lights you up and fills you with joy, then do whatever it is that makes your heart sing. As long as you're being kind, compassionate, and generous to other people, and as long as you're showing up as your best and highest self and not being someone who's out there trying to manipulate and be someone who is truly trying to tear other people down, then I say live to your heart's desire in the deepest, most powerful way you can, and be a little batshit crazy in the process. So with that, I hope you all will step into your crazy this week. I hope you will start to recognize the people that are showing up, that while well-intentioned, while they do love you, while they do care about you, they also are oftentimes inadvertently creating a space that is a barrier and block, and they're creating noise that's shutting you down. A subliminal and subconscious way, they are feeding your belief about yourself, and they are making you play small until you choose to stop listening to them. And so my challenge to all of you is to start playing bigger, stop playing small, get a little crazy, scare people, rock the boat. It's okay. You know what? There's oars. If you fall out of the boat, it's okay. You can swim to shore. It's fine if you rock the boat a little bit. We need to rock the boat more. So with that, everybody, thank you. Thank you all for who joined this morning. Thank you for bearing with some of my computer technology issues, for hanging in here with Peyton's barking and the noise and all of that. I love you, and I will catch up with everyone tomorrow. Make it an absolutely fantastic, powerful Monday, and I'll catch up with you 7:30 tomorrow. Love y'all. Bye.